in Manchester at Junction 5. In West Berkshire, the A34 northbound lane between the M4 and A4185 is closed. In West Sussex, there's a 20-minute delay on the A27 eastbound between Chichester West and East. And on the trains, Great Northern faces disruption between Ely and Kings Lynn, while Greater Anglia has no trains to or from Hertford East. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
Yeah, so when I was 5 years old, one of my family members, friends, was looking after me one day, like babysitting me. And then on that day, it was a well-trusted friend of our family, was babysitting me and took me upstairs, and he raped and abused me. So from then on, I've suffered and suffered. One of the things that he did say to me was that he would kill me or hurt me in my sleep. So ever since then, I've always suffered with PTSD, night terrors. It never goes away.
It took 20 years for you to face it.
20 years, yeah, to ever come out about what had ever happened to me. My parents didn't know, I didn't tell them anything.
Because a lot of men in your position, a lot of boys in position, they'd rather just take the burden of shame on. That comes at a great, can come at a great cost.
Yeah, lots of friends and family. And I was just scared to tell them, you know, because obviously as well, if I did ever say anything about it, he was going to come and get me. So I managed to find an organisation which is charity run called Arch Teesside, which is near where I live. And I went to go see them. And my therapy at the time, the guy was called Dave Taylor. And he was a big guy, full of tattoos. And, you know, when you see somebody, you think, how am I going to open up to somebody of this man, you know? And I hit it off, like, straight away. And I've always told him, this is what I love doing. I love going to the gym. I want to step on stage by the time I'm 40. And then that's what I went and did.
And look at you then.
I mean, I'm a modelling shot, yeah.
You said in your book there, hold your book up, people want to get a copy of this book. Tell them what it's called, mate.
Buy the book.
What's the book called, mate? Tell them.
It's called Breaking the Silence, A Champion's Journey.
And this is it. And your message that you say, if you help one other person out there to channel their pain into purpose, mission accomplished, mate.
GB News, the People's Channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question. That's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and wanted to have an open discussion.
My name's Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Good morning, it's 9:30 on Thursday, the 18th of December, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, young boys will be sent to misogyny lessons at school as the government launches a crackdown on violence against women and girls. Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips spoke to GB News earlier.
There was never been a proper focus on prevention. This isn't just about how we make it so that victims have a better service. This is also about how we prevent that violence from being able to happen in the first place.
And in our latest bout of cozying up to the EU, it turns out the European Student Exchange Programme that we've signed up to will cost £570 million.
Tonight, after 11 months, our border is secure, inflation is stopped, wages are up, prices are down, our nation is strong, America is respected, and our country is back.
President Trump delivering his end-of-year address, claiming credit for turning America around, but his critics say he looked wooden and rattled. Does Trump need a timeout?
We're going to make more arrests on some of the contentious phrases, and we're going to encourage CPS to look harder at prosecuting those cases.
Two people have been arrested at a pro-Palestine rally in London last night for shouting slogans about intifada on the first day of the police banning the phrase.
And we're going to tell you about a new nativity play in York, A Gay in a Manger. The baby Jesus and his parents, Mary and Joe, are depicted as gay, the three wise men as drag queens, and heaven is a gay disco. Oh dear.
Andrew, violence against women and girls is a serious problem. It seems to be a growing problem. It's hard to get accurate information about how many women and girls are abused for obvious reasons. But the strategy that the government is publishing today, from what we've seen of it so far, seems an utterly inadequate response to what's happening. Lessons in school are hardly going to change the attitudes of a whole generation compared to much deeper cultural problems that I think we have.
Yeah, and the cultural thing is, of course, a big part of it. We're going to talk to some very significant people on that story today. As ever, we'd like to know what you think. Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you, 9:32. The top story. Teachers will be trained to spot early signs of misogyny under a £20 million government plan, aiming at halving violence against women and girls within a decade. The strategy focuses on preventing the radicalisation of young men, with lessons on consent, online harms and healthy relationships, plus extra support for high-risk pupils. Australia's Prime Minister says hate speech laws will be toughened after 15 people were killed in a shooting at a Jewish festival in Bondi Beach. Anthony Albanese says new offences, visa powers and sentencing rules will target those spreading hate after what he called an act of terror meant to divide the nation. Breaking this morning, the farming sector is, quote, bewildered and frightened about its future, according to a government review. Farmers say proposed changes to inheritance tax are now the single biggest threat to long-term viability of their businesses. In other news, the parents of a Scottish teenager who took his own life after being blackmailed on Instagram are suing Meta in what's thought to be the first UK case of its kind. They say the platform failed to stop sextortion scams, while Meta insists it's working with police and strengthening protections for young users. And EU leaders are meeting in Brussels to decide whether frozen Russian assets should be used to fund Ukraine's war effort. Without new money, Kyiv's finances could run dry within months, but Belgium and others say they remain wary of the legal risks. Those are the headlines for now. Full roundup at 10.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome. This is Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
So, boys as young as 11 are going to be sent on anti-misogyny courses under new government plans to tackle violence against women and girls, which the government say are the most significant ever.
Well, the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, spoke to GB News just a few moments ago. Here's what she said.
There was never been a proper focus on prevention. This isn't just about how we make it so that victims have a better service. This is also about how we prevent that violence from being able to happen in the first place, whether that is with stuff in education for boys and girls across the country, or it is around really tackling the perpetration, like putting specialist rape units in every police force, like making sure that 999 control rooms have specialists in them so that the police respond as they should to the perpetrators of these crimes.
Well, teachers are to be given training to spot early signs of radicalisation in students. But we're asking, do the plans go far enough?
You don't think they go anywhere near far enough, do you?
I certainly don't. I think also they are completely misunderstanding the causes of the problems here. And I think one thing that we take for granted in the West, that Western women certainly take for granted, is this idea that we can participate in society safely without the threat of physical and sexual abuse because of all the cultural norms and the laws and the behaviours that we've built up over centuries to make sure that, in the main, men treat women with respect. But that's not normal. You know, that's not normal from a historical point of view. It's almost a uniquely Western aspect of our culture that we believe women are equal and should be protected. And a few misogyny lessons in school, when you think of all the other cultural forces that are competing, is just pathetic.
Who's going to teach the misogyny lessons?
Well, exactly. Is it going to be young female teachers? I mean, you just couldn't make it up. There doesn't seem to be any understanding of biology, of how human sexuality develops. It's so stupid. I just can't think of any other word for it.
It is extraordinary when we've got a Labour government which has got some very senior women in the cabinet. Jess Phillips, she's made a lifetime out of working with abused women. You'd think they might have come up with something imaginative.
Yeah.
And it just seems the worst of all worlds. There will be more details because we think Jess Phillips is making a statement to the Commons later this morning, which we will bring you of. But in the meantime, we wonder what you make of it.
But in terms of what's been briefed out so far...
what have we heard so far?
I mean, so they're talking about these lessons, but one of the things The Guardian was reporting says children as young as 11 who demonstrate misogynistic behaviour will be taught the difference between pornography and real relationships. Yes, because that's really going to help if they've already seen an enormous amount of violence and been conditioned to think that's normal.
And, of course, that's part of the problem. It is what these kids see on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting to see them partially opening the door to a social media ban akin to Australia.
She did say that, Jess Phillips, but I don't think she speaks with the authority of the Prime Minister, and sometimes I don't think she speaks with the authority of anybody, because I don't think she knows quite what she's doing, because she certainly hasn't even got the terms of reference of the major inquiry right, has she? That's
right, because in the interview that she did with GBNews earlier on, she was asked by our political editor, Chris Hope, if the terms of the inquiry would be exhaustive. She said they would, but actually in the terms of reference it says it won't be. So who's right? We'll see later, I'm sure.
Let's talk to Khadija Khan, who's the politics and culture editor at A Further Inquiry. Good morning. Can I ask you, from what you've seen and heard so far, is Miriam right? This doesn't go anywhere near enough. It's only scratching the surface.
Good morning. I mean, it's always good to hear Labour Party talking about women's rights and how to tackle misogynistic ideas in society. However, I would say that they have relentlessly refused to address the elephant in the room when it comes to dealing with misogyny in all of its manifestations. They are all willing to counter misogynistic ideas unless they are propagated by its registered Islamic charities under the banner of the advancement of religion. These religious and cultural beliefs propagate a toxic form of misogyny that is primarily linked to domestic abuse and honor-based violence. And surprise, surprise, in this country, registered Islamic charities have been reported to the regulator and to the Charity Commission for promoting misogyny under the charitable purpose of the advancement of religion, but all in vain. These charities have compared women who do not cover their heads to unwrapped sweets or uncovered meat. They have suggested that men can beat their wives to discipline her and have stated that a woman must serve her husband by cooking or cleaning. Additionally, they advocate that women should always ask for their husband's permission when they want to go out and should lower their gaze when they are surrounded by known mahram men, which are known family members. In certain instances, imams have told their congregations that men are allowed to abuse their wives if they refuse to engage in sex. They have also claimed that working women who wear makeup would be destroyed. Now, there is no concept of consent in the matter related to marriage, because all what matter is the consent of the father, because he's the wali of a girl, means guardian of his daughter. And then there is no concept of marital rape in Islamic teachings. Now tell me, can we genuinely engage in open and honest discussion about these misogynistic beliefs without fearing repercussions? I fear we cannot. The moment we start criticizing misogyny that is rooted in Islamic discourse, we are often accused of racism and Islamophobia. I mean, that is where the problem lies, in my opinion.
Khadija, why do you think we find it so difficult to talk about these cultural differences? Do you think there's just an ignorance amongst British culture about how special, I suppose, how unique this idea that women are equal Do you think it's just cowardice that we're not willing to take on the discussion about what Islam teaches? How are we going to solve this problem if we can't even talk about it?
I mean, it's unhinged political correctness. It's cowardice, in my opinion, on the part of the political elite in this country, because I'm not buying into this idea that people, they cannot understand the misogyny that comes from religious discourse in this country. They know what is going on in these, registered charities, and these charities have been reported to the authorities, but nothing was done to prevent them from getting charitable status in this country. And I think that is very worrisome, because we are reluctant to discuss the root causes of this horrific, violence against women and misogyny, because our politicians, they fear losing votes and cannot, or perhaps they cannot afford to offend religious zealots, or maybe they want to bring certain religious belief into the political equation in this country by giving certain privileges to one particular religion, which is Islam in this case. So I think it's plain, blatant cowardice. It's not ignorance. It is just there, but they have refused to see it.
I mean, I've got a very cynical view about it, which is that the Labour Party is unwilling to offend the Muslim community in any shape or form because it depends on it so much for votes.
Yes, it is an established fact that they are very much concerned about the vote bank. When they talk about honor-based violence, they don't want to discuss religious beliefs, which are deeply misogynistic. When they talk about misogyny, they don't want to talk about violence against women in conservative and closed section of the Muslim communities, where these misogynistic and inherently discriminatory views are propagated in certain mosques and seminaries. And we need to understand, when we talk about 11-year-old boys are being affected by the misogynistic ideas propagated on social media. I mean, come on, let's talk about the ground realities. Whatever you're going to teach them in the schools, it will be undone, when they will go to their faith school and learn about these misogynistic ideas, which are all made and designed to serve men, not to women. So we need to be, talking about all aspects of misogyny, all manifestation of misogyny, if we are really concerned about women's safety.
Now, Khadija, you've been extraordinarily brave in talking about these things. What kind of reaction have you had from within the Muslim community and indeed further abroad than that?
I've been vilified. I've been treated like pariah, not only by religious fanatics, or I would say the conservative member of the Muslim community, but also from the liberal fringe. I mean, I've been told many times that why do you want to bring religion into this equation by those very people who have been, campaigning against female genital mutilation or honor-based violence within Muslim community. I've been told that you don't have to talk about religion and religious belief. You don't have to, defame religion because that's how you are defaming the whole community. And I've been shocked, literally, because I know that when I'm getting criticism from religious fanatics, I know that it's going to come anyway. But when I see people who claim to be the champions of women's rights and torchbearer, of human rights, when they tell me, do not be so harsh on religion and just leave it out of the equation when you're talking about misogyny and women's rights abuses, I mean, it's really uncanny, opinion, and it's really shocking for me.
Khadija Khan, thank you so much for coming on, explaining that all to us. You're a very brave lady, and we wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now we've got some breaking news. A review for the government carried out by Baroness Batters, who's a former head of the National Farmers Union, has found the farming sector is, quote, bewildered and frightened of what might lie ahead, with farmers citing the inheritance tax changes as the biggest issue. We'll have more reaction on that throughout the day. By the way, the cost of the inheritance tax, raising $500 million, we now know what they're going to use it for. the Erasmus scheme for students coming here from throughout the EU. It's going to cost you, the taxpayer, £570 million. It's a flipping outrage.
Stopping food for French students.
Absolutely.
Fair exchange. Well, still ahead, Labour are set to hand over, as Andrew's just said, £570 million to the EU so that we can be part of the Erasmus student exchange programme.
And that's with a 30% discount, apparently, and they're rather proud of that, the government.
Goodness, and that's only in the first year, I think.
Yeah.
Well, they're
Goes up to
slapping the
$1 billion
face of
next
Brexit voters, isn't it?
Yeah. Up next, Donald Trump has been accused of rambling and looking rattled in his state address to the nation. Is the 79-year-old beginning to show his age?
Well, first, if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast for some of our top European destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're after some winter sun tomorrow, well, Spain's not looking like a great bet. There is a front that's bringing quite a bit of cloud and rain lying across much of Spain into Portugal and stretching as far as Madeira and the Canary Islands, all of that pushing its way east and southeastwards. A drier picture for many around the Mediterranean, but some outbreaks of rain here and there. And worth bearing in mind, there's more unsettled weather to come, particularly towards more southern parts as we go towards the weekend. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
I think it's just good, honest, humble food. And yeah, as people get away from the ultra-processed stuff and get back to their roots, and what's better than a good jacket potato?
Do you know what? Sales of jacket spuds have gone through the roof. The big potatoes at Waitrose. There's been a 178% increase in people looking at recipes. And I just think it's wholesome, it's affordable, it's comfortable, it makes you feel good, it's back to basics. That, I think, at the moment, sums up the nation.
I think very much it being affordable as well. With the climate we're living in at the moment, it definitely helps knowing, you're putting food on the table for a reasonable price, and people appreciate that. And it's good, honest food. You can feed your kids, and kids are seeing it on social media, and they're getting excited about it as well. So they're not like, obviously everyone sees all the big brands, and now there's all these, jacket potato people out there, and we're giving them something that's healthy, and they want to eat it. And I think the parents appreciate that.
And Ben, I've seen your videos. They queue around the block to get to you. If people are in the mood to cook a potato tonight, of course, we don't want to affect your sales. What is your sort of top of the pops spud recipe? Give it to us.
Oh, it's all about variety. It's picking the right potato is really important. Get a nice melody or a cara or culture or something like that. Nice and big. In the oven, if you can. Hour and 20. Get a nice crispy skin on there. Loads of butter, loads of cheese, and a nice curry on top or something. That's my go-to.
Ooh. Now, that was a final little curveball there you threw at the last minute there, Ben.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun. No, he didn't say that, Dave. I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 10 to 10. Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom.
Prince and Princess of Wales have released their annual Christmas card, wishing everyone a very happy Christmas.
In a post on X, Prince William and Princess Kate are pictured lovingly embracing their children, George, Charlotte and Louis.
Not very Christmassy, is it?
No, it looks rather springtime. Anyway,
very odd.
Harking forward to sunnier times.
Now, overnight, President Trump made his end-of-year address. He claimed credit for bringing peace to the Middle East, ending 8 wars, tightening control of immigration and the economy. Have a listen.
We have broken the grip of sinister woke radicals in our schools, and control over those schools is back now in the hands of our great and loving states where education belongs.
Well, joining us now is the US journalist Chapman Bell. Welcome to the studio, Chapman.
Good to see you.
Now, I think it's fair to say he's not received particularly favourable reviews of this speech overnight.
No, and I think, look, there are some wins he can celebrate. He did. I mean, to say that he brought peace in the Middle East for the first time in 3,000 years, maybe overstretching it, but he did bring a ceasefire. Yeah. The hostages were released. That's a win. He has worked on negotiating some other conflicts around the world, yes. A lot of people will say what he's done with the U.S. borders is a good thing. He has stopped a lot of illegal migration, albeit by different means than usual, but he has done that. But then he's also made a lot of other claims, and a lot of what he's done is gone on the attack, which he does often. He's attacking Biden. He's attacking the Democrats. He is saying what he has done has been never before seen. It's these big claims that he likes to bring up, and a lot of people were saying it was just a fast-paced ramble.
Yeah. Which is odd, because it was scripted, and you can understand when he's at a press conference, there's no auto cue, he sometimes rambles, he goes into other subjects, but this was scripted.
Yeah, and it also, to use that time slot for an address, many people are saying it's normally used for a big announcement. This was more of a, look what I've done, look how good it's going to be. A lot of people are saying there have been some wins in some elections by Democrats. The word affordability has been a key part of what they've been pressing. Interestingly, the first few lines of his address, he brought up the word affordability or unaffordability, blaming Democrats. He said he inherited the worst, he inherited a mess and he's fixing it. That's been his key message, that things were so bad, you're going to have to wait a little bit longer for them to get better. The biggest announcement probably from this was that he's giving $1,776 to U.S. soldiers as the warrior dividend. He brought up tariffs, his favorite word. It really seems like someone whose ratings are low, and he's trying to say, wait with me a little bit longer, and things are going to get better. He said, wait till you see many times. In the new year, you will see. It's trying to get people on board that things will get better, but a lot of people don't think things are getting better. I think there was a statistic, 61% say the economy is not working for them personally. This is what people elected him for.
And that was part of his shtick, wasn't it? That's how he could. Are you better off under Biden? No. You will be under me. That was his whole...
That's right. And, he said prescription drugs are coming down 600%. I guess that's in relation to what other countries pay for them, because that would be giving you money to get prescription drugs. So, interesting.
He's working on that. Well, still ahead, a major government review finds British farmers are bewildered and scared about their future. All that's coming up after the break.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good morning to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, things are going to turn pretty wet and pretty windy for many of us as we go through today. It's all because we have some very wet weather across parts of the southwest at the moment, and that's feeding its way northeastwards. The heaviest rain's going to be across southern, southwestern parts, 40, 50, perhaps even up to 60 millimetres in some places. And we have some strong gusts of wind to watch out for, 50 to 60 miles per hour, perhaps 70 miles per hour in some exposed spots towards the south. southwest. That wet and blustery weather will feed its way further northwards, and whilst temperatures are going to be a little bit above average for the time of year, it's going to feel pretty unpleasant with all that unsettled weather around. Now, as we head into this evening, staying pretty wet across many parts of Scotland. The rain won't have actually reached the far northeast of Scotland and Orkney and Shetland, so drier here. Otherwise, yes, a wet and blustery end to the day, some spray on the roads to watch out for. The rain having cleared mostly away from Northern Ireland, a few outbreaks of rain lingering for a little while yet. Similar down the western side of England and Wales, some hefty showery bursts of rain here, cloudier towards the east with the more persistent rain clearing through. Then as we go overnight, something a little bit clearer, drier developing from the west, so a quieter spell for a time with some clear skies for many places, albeit a fair few showers continuing across parts of the northwest in particular. With some clear skies, especially in the east, it could turn a little chilly, mid-single figures, perhaps even low single figures in some prone rural spots. Then through Friday, well, a drier day for sure for most places, especially across central and eastern England. A good deal of fine sunny weather here. More showers towards the north and west of the UK, but the rain won't be as heavy and the winds won't be as strong as what we're seeing through today. There's more wet weather to come as we go into the weekend, but things are set to turn drier as we go through into Christmas week, and with that, temperatures dropping as well. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for our more than 2 million YouTube subscribers and more than 2 billion views. That is Britain watching, sharing and making its voice heard louder than ever before.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A9 southbound at Dunblane is restricted due to a broken down vehicle. In Durham, the A1M southbound between junctions 63 and 62 is delayed by a vehicle fire. Congestion on the M6 southbound in Sandwell between junctions 9 and 7 causes 30-minute delays. The A14 westbound near Catworth is affected by a broken down vehicle. A collision partially blocks the A34 northbound. And on the trains, Great Northern is disrupted between Ely and Kings Lynn, impacting Greater Anglia services. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
It's the greatest cash prize of the Great British Giveaway so far. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash to spend on anything you like, making 2026 your greatest year to date. That could get you that brand new car, extend and improve your home, take you away on that bucket list holiday, or just give you some peace of mind over the coming months. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Thursday the 18th of December. We are live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Young boys are going to be sent to misogyny lessons at school. This is part of the government's crackdown on violence against women and girls. The Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, spoke to GB News a little earlier.
There was never been a proper focus on prevention. This isn't just about how we make it so that victims have a better service. This is also about how we prevent that violence from being able to happen in the first place.
And Jess Phillips says she wants to deploy the full power of the state in their strategy to tackle violence against women and girls. But in her interview with GB News, she also raises some further questions about the grooming gangs inquiry. I'll have all the details shortly.
And a major government review finds that British farmers are bewildered and scared for the future amid major concerns over tractor tax. Well, we could have told you that.
And in our latest bout of cosing up to the EU, the European Student Exchange Programme, which we've signed up to, is going to cost you, the taxpayer, a mere £570 million. But be grateful, we've got a discount on it, apparently.
Tonight, after 11 months, our border is secure, inflation is stopped, wages are up, prices are down, our nation is strong, America is respected, and our country is back.
President Trump delivers his end-of-year address, claiming credit for turning America around. But his critics said he looked wooden and rattled. Perhaps Donald Trump needs some time out.
We're going to make more arrests on some of the contentious phrases, and we're going to encourage CPS to look harder at prosecuting those cases.
That was the Metropolitan Police Commissioner Samart Rowley after two people were arrested at a pro-Palestine rally in London last night for shouting slogans about intifada on the first day of the police saying the phrase will be banned.
Elsewhere, the Bank of England looks poised to cut interest rates to the lowest level in 3 years. Pubs across Britain will certainly be hoping so.
Yeah, it looks like it would be good news for the economy and good news for homeowners, but would a potential cut in interest rates be enough to save pubs under pressure? I'll be finding out later on.
And the Prince and Princess of Wales have released their Christmas card wishing everyone a very happy Christmas. It's just not very Christmassy.
Well, this Erasmus scheme that the government announced yesterday we'd be rejoining so that British students can go and study abroad and European students can come and study here. I mean, it sounds like a great idea in principle, but when you see the cost, 570 million.
570 million in next year, and then the year after, the discount disappears and it'll be over 800 million. And they think by the end of the Parliament, it will be £1 billion a year. So if you're a farmer and you're struggling with the inheritance tax, which will raise 500 million, that's what it's for, to send some middle-class kids to university abroad. But more importantly, they're coming here and you're paying for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Extraordinary.
I mean, lots of people who voted for Brexit might be concerned about this, but I mean, on the face of it, swapping a few students here and there is not the problem, is it? But it's the huge cost to the taxpayer at a time when the public finances can
and there was no mention of this money in the budget, was there?
No, that's
no
true.
mention whatsoever. It's just come from left side. It's extraordinary. What do you think? Tell us what you think. Send your views and post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. First, here's the news with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you from the newsroom. Just coming up to 4 minutes past 10. The top story: teachers will be trained to spot early signs of misogyny under a £20 million government plan aimed at halving violence against women and girls within 10 years. The strategy, unveiled today after repeated delays, focuses on preventing the radicalisation of young men with lessons on consent, on online harms, healthy relationships and positive role models. High-risk pupils will also be referred for extra support, including behavioural courses, while a new helpline will also be launched for teenagers experiencing abuse. Well, earlier today, the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, joined us here on GB News and said that the UK is already leading the way on online safety, but insisted prevention, not plasters, is now the government's priority.
We need to make sure that the government is providing context for young boys in schools so that when they hear horrible, violent, misogynistic things, that we can make sure that that doesn't lead young men to a life of criminality.
Australia's Prime Minister says new hate speech laws are coming after Sunday's deadly shooting at a Jewish festival in Bondi Beach. 15 people were killed when 2 gunmen opened fire during a Hanukkah event, prompting Anthony Albanese to promise tougher penalties for those spreading hate and radicalisation. The reforms include new visa powers, harsher sentencing for online abuse and a federal offence of aggravated hate speech. Mr Albanese admitted more could have been done to counter anti-Semitism, saying his responsibility now is to unite the nation, not deepen division. Here, the farming sector is being left bewildered and frightened by government policy, according to a new review commissioned by ministers. The report, led by former NFU President Baroness Minette Batters, calls for a new deal for profitable farming, warning costs are rising while weather conditions become more extreme. Although inheritance tax changes weren't formally within the review's scope, farmers raised them as the single biggest threat to viability. The report also highlights deep concern over changes to post-Brexit farming payments, with some questioning whether their businesses can even survive at all. The parents of a Scottish teenager who took his own life after being blackmailed on Instagram are suing Meta in what's thought to be the first UK case of its kind. 16-year-old Murray Dowie was targeted by sextortion scammers posing as a girl and threatened with exposure unless he paid. His family claims Meta knew of safety measures that could have prevented the abuse, but prioritised profit instead. Meta, though, says it is fighting sextortion on multiple fronts, as lawyers warn the crime has become a global digital epidemic. In Brussels, EU leaders are meeting today to decide whether to loan Ukraine tens of billions of euros using frozen Russian assets. Without fresh funding, Kyiv says finances could run dry within months, but Belgium remains unconvinced, warning of legal and financial risks. The European Commission wants to release around 90 billion euros, but Russia has threatened legal action and condemned the plan. As peace talks continue behind the scenes, officials say this is now a crunch moment that could shape the next phase of the war. Interest rates are expected to be cut before Christmas after UK inflation fell to an 8-month low. Economists say the Bank of England is today likely to reduce rates to 3.75%. That's the lowest since early 2023. Inflation dropped to 3.2% in November, driven by easing food, drink and tobacco prices. Experts say borrowers may see some relief, but warn ultra-low rates aren't coming back anytime soon. And the Prince and Princess of Wales have released this new family photograph for their Christmas card this year. Shared on Kensington Palace's social media, the image shows William and Kate sitting on the grass with George, Charlotte and Louis. It was taken in Norfolk in April by photographer Josh Shiner. And the message simply reads, wishing everyone a very happy Christmas. You should see Andrew and Miriam's Christmas card. It's slightly different. Those are the latest headlines. I'll leave that to your imagination.
Hello, welcome back. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates. And let's have a look at what you've been saying on gbnews.com/your say. Alison says, the government should listen and consult this brave lady, Khadija Khan. She is really telling the truth of what is going on and what imams are saying about domestic violence and misogyny. She was absolutely superb, Andrew, wasn't she?
She really was. And I was interested, you asked a question I would have asked her. How is she viewed in her Muslim community with a lot of anger and resentment by the men, especially, of course?
Right. Yeah, it does seem extraordinary that the government's strategy against violence against women and girls does not include culture and religion. And Phil says, talking about Erasmus is a year of partying for young kids. If they want to do it, make them pay for it. John says it's madness to cosy up to the EU. It's failing, and it seems to me all they want is an offshore cash machine.
£570 million. The last year of Erasmus cost the taxpayer £200 million, so it's tripled.
That's inflation for you.
Yeah, and that's because we are determined to go on bended knee to the European Union.
Well,
because Starmer's never come to terms with Brexit.
No, they do definitely regret it. Well, the UK will rejoin this Erasmus student exchange programme 5 years after leaving the scheme as part of the Brexit arrangements.
The scheme will make way for young people to study across Europe in 2027, and it'll cost 570 million, but the Minister told the Commons yesterday be grateful because he'd secured a 30% discount. We're going to talk to our GBNews political editor, Christopher Hope. Chris, whatever they say, this does feel to me yet again like another brick has been taken out of the Brexit wall.
Yes, well, Andrew and Miriam, you got a point there. I mean, we are gradually tiptoeing back to a much closer relationship with the European Union. Now, when we left the European Union back in January 2021, we left the Erasmus scheme that started in 1987. It was a student exchange scheme back then. We replaced it with what's called the Turing scheme, which expanded it to not just the European Union, but globally. Now, what they're saying to us is this new scheme is called Erasmus Plus, and it starts from 2027. And as you say, we're paying £570 million in the first year. That's a 30%, but not a 50% discount on the price to join it. Now, I asked Nick Thomas-Symonds, who is the cabinet minister in charge of the Brexit negotiations or the Brexit talks about getting closer to Brussels, if he got a bad deal, if he couldn't negotiate properly. He got quite a bit affronted by the question, but I think that's what people will be asking. He denied that, of course, and did say they will look at a value for money study into this scheme once it's launched. I'm not clear right now, but trying to get answers for the GBNews all day on where this leaves the Turing scheme, which is more globally focused. This is European Union focused, and there are concerns that, frankly, who benefits most? Probably the European Union. 2-to-1, the European Union students came to the UK compared to UK students going to Europe before it was got rid of this scheme in terms of UK involvement. But I think we heard from Nick Thomas-Symonds last night on the channel. He was saying it won't just benefit university students, but younger people who want to have that 2 to 10-month experience overseas from around the country. So they're trying to widen it away from university, and that's why they're calling it Erasmus Plus. He said to us last night it's a huge win for young people, breaking down barriers and widening the horizons to ensure everyone from every background, he says, has the opportunity to study overseas. So they see it as a positive, but many will be saying, is it worth the money? And as you say, going out maybe 6 years, it could cost us over £1 billion a year. What is our return on that? And that's why I think it's so important that the government does look at the value in this. But as you say from the beginning, it looks like this government is slowly going back towards a quite close relationship with the European Union. Labour would say that's a better deal for the UK. Others might disagree.
Yeah, I can't say it's a better deal when it's costing £600 million.
No. I mean, Chris, if the government really believes in this scheme, why are they not talking about the benefits to our whole country? Talking about the benefits to individuals is going to make people resent taxpayers' money being funded to individual students who may already be quite privileged. But surely there are benefits to our entire country of bright people moving abroad for a year, forming relationships, learning more about other cultures. Why aren't they talking that up?
Well, that is what Nick Thomas-Symonds told GBNews last night. He did call it Erasmus Plus. He says it's not just for universities, it's for younger people, maybe those in apprenticeships or early stage in their careers, to get that opportunity to work overseas. It's all part of this kind of cultural connection which Labour wants to re-establish with the European Union after, of course, those Brexit talks. I'm looking really at next year. I think next year we'll be seeing big strides made towards going towards freedom of movement for 18 to 30-year-olds, and that will really be a step change, I think, in the UK's relationship with the European Union, and that's what we are expecting to be on the table next year.
Chris, thank you very much.
Now it's time, of course, for the Great British Giveaway. It's your chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year. It is £85,000. Not bad, is it? Here's all the details you need for your chance to make it yours. Best of luck.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to splash on anything you can dream of. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax. Save for in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. £85,000 is the biggest cash prize we've ever given away. It's totally tax-free, which means that every single penny of it will be yours. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up next, we'll be telling you about a new nativity called A Gay in a Manger. Yep, you heard that correctly. It's sparked outrage.
We'll be going through that with our very own two wise men. That's Piers Pottinger, the legendary political commentator, and Andy Williams of the left. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, it's a long time since I've sat in your knee, Santa.
I remember it very well, Ian.
I'm sure you still have the bruises. We'll just shake hands today.
Well, you're a very busy man, so we're very lucky to get to speak to you.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Santa, how come now? It's leading up. How long is there to go?
15 days.
15 days to go. All your little helpers, I presume, are working away. Getting everything ready.
My goodness me. You know, I have so many helpers, of course, not just in the North Pole, but all over the world. People in this country. As a matter of fact, even my friends at British Gas, they have Santa helpers that look just like me. They've been going to people's homes to make sure that the children are happy, as well as fixing their problems with boilers and things.
Well, because things can go wrong, even though it's Christmas Day.
Yes, indeed. That's absolutely true, you know. But listen, I'm here to tell you there's nothing to worry about. The elf helpers, my friends, everybody all over the world that helps Santa, we've got the matter in hand. And this is going to be the most wonderful, magicalest Christmas ever.
Oh, it is. Santa, we've got lots of people getting in touch and they're a bit worried because they don't have a chimney in their house and they're worried about how you're going to get in.
Yes, this one comes up quite a lot, but can I let you in on a little secret? The truth is that many centuries ago, the elves crafted a strange magical key just for me. Now, this key can fit any lock in the entire world. Chimney or no chimney, I can get into every home that is full of Christmas spirit and the love and giving of Christmas.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back. It's 18 minutes past 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates, and we're joined by our fantastic political commentators, Andy Williams and Piers Pottinger, who we like equally, Andrew, don't we? Even though
well, he's a legend. Only because Piers has... No, because he's been around a lot longer than Andy.
No, that's
the point. Yeah. He's been around even longer than me. I've been around forever. Now, chaps, I thought this government was massively ramping up spending on defence spending. It's going to rise to 3.5% of GDP at some point. What's happening?
Well, I don't know. And I don't think the government knows, because they've postponed yet again their defence investment plan, which was due to be announced in the autumn. Notice they don't have a date, autumn. They got postponed. Now, it was meant to be out before Christmas. It's not out. They've said it might be out in January. Now, the question is, and the military leaders who've all written to the Prime Minister saying we're in real trouble, our armed forces are not properly equipped. There's problems, obviously, with Ajax, the tanks that are not
We had the
working.
military leader this week saying there's going to be war.
And also, we're in a very dangerous time. Also, Starmer has promised his great friends in the European community that he's, all this coalition of the willing, we're going to increase our defence spending, he said, and made that one of his famous pledges. He's very good at not keeping his pledges, as we know. And I think the real concern is, instead of throwing a lot of money away on ridiculous schemes that are costing, we don't have any money, because Rachel Reeves has blown it all on the public services and benefits. I mean, we're soon going to have no army, no defence, no one working, and just the place awash with immigrants. I mean, this won't be a country anymore. It
is odd, Andy, because they did make a big pitch about how they were going to massively increase defence spending. That's good for British jobs. Yep. It's because Trump's going to spend less money on NATO, so we have to take our responsibility. All European nations, and they've cancelled this or postponed this defence statement.
Well, I thought my outlook was bleak, but I think Piers is even more pessimistic than I am about the way things are going. I mean, firstly, I suspect that this delay boils down to nothing more than a very inefficient civil service. Like, this will be held up in some room in the MOD where people aren't, I'm very down on the civil service, where people aren't prepared to stay beyond 5 o'clock. Incidentally, there were some stats that were published yesterday that show that the average civil servant takes 8.5 sick days a year. The average person, which means that if one person takes 1 day, the other person's taking 17. I mean, it's out of control.
About a third of what it is in Germany, but anyway, we can come back to that.
Really? That's very interesting.
Because they have full sick pay from the first day, self-certified for up to, I think, 6 months or 6 weeks.
Well, isn't that what Anti-Lorena wanted to do?
Well, that's obviously been watered down.
I digress.
Watered down the Employment Rights Bill. But no, I mean, I think the fundamental problem with this is Starmer set this arbitrary ambition. It's the right ambition, because, of course, we have to increase our defence spending.
Absolutely.
That's where we are in the geopolitical climate. I think, 10, 15, 20 years ago, people thought, well, there's no prospect of war ever happening in Europe again, so we don't need to. And so defence spending withered on the vine, and here we are. So we definitely need to do it. There is no, as far as I've seen, there is no tangible plan, there is no strategy to determine what that money will be spent on, but more importantly, how we're going to afford to do it.
And also, Starmer is talking about supporting Ukraine. We have 70,000 in our army. Ukraine's army is 800,000. So let's put that in perspective. The minnow trying to help the carp. It's absurd. And I mean, Starmer is I think he's living in a different world to everyone else.
Do you think we've reached a point of total paralysis? I mean, I'm no defence spending expert, but it seems like the defence world realises that we're utterly unprepared for war.
Yeah.
The government says it wants to spend money, but to do so it will have to make some impossible choices in a democracy, cutting benefits massively, basically. And at the same time, the defence sector itself is arguing about whether to spend billions on new technologies or just to spend it on traditional hardware, tanks, infantry. But the combined effect of all that is just paralysis.
Well, the trouble is you need both the traditional hardware and the new technology, increasingly so, obviously. But there are areas which are difficult because some members, obviously the RAF, increasingly there's no need for pilots. because even, you know, the stealth bombers don't need to be manned. And so pilots are becoming redundant, something though that the RAF, of course, don't like to admit, and they fight that tooth and nail. Of course, our military leaders have got to be realistic, but at the same time, so is our government. And at the moment, everything Starmer does is for some sort of utopian idea. And to use Andy Williams's late great namesake, one of his hits was The Impossible Dream, and I think that's what Starmer is doing.
Yeah, on Starmer, Andy, you are a man instinctively sympathetic to Labour. Pretty atrocious year he's had, hasn't he?
It's been a terrible year. It was a bad start. You know, the second half of 2024, very bad start, and I think I was reasonably optimistic and gave them the benefit of the doubt, but actually their track record in 2025 is pretty much entirely bad. I mean, if you look at the budget, there was no mention of growth. The OBR scored 0 growth-raising measures. So the economy is getting worse, unemployment is up, inflation is reasonably stubborn. As Piers says, you know, they've completely failed. I think the defining moment of this year for Labour was the failure to get those £5 billion of welfare cuts through, because that was the tip of the iceberg in terms of what's needed to tackle public spending, and they weren't even able to do that because the left of the Labour Party, as always, are a stick in the mud and won't let them do what's done.
And let's spare a moment for the great Sultana of your party, or as it's known as the Up Yours Party in some circles. But Sultana, as we speak, if she's true to her word, is standing outside a hospital, a prison, where a Palestine Action activist is on hunger strike, and Sultana says she won't leave until this person is taken to hospital. And so that's kind of indicative of the splinter bit of the Labour Party.
Well, if there's one piece of good news from this year, actually, it's that your party and Zara Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn have completely blown what was a real opportunity for them to actually capture a good chunk of the hard left.
It's just high comedy. The best thing, though, of the year for the Labour Party was Sadiq Khan's brilliant scheme to rewild white storks in Dagenham. He has paid £500,000. He has bought £500,000 worth of white storks, which incidentally went extinct in 1640 because impoverished Londoners ate them all.
Well, it's nice to have them back.
I think the same thing will happen very shortly again, as Sadiq Khan makes all Londoners.
Shall we move on?
Let's move on to Christmas carols and Christmas plays. The Nativity play, my first dramatic moment as a child, Andy, was
Who did you play?
Joseph in a Nativity play
Leading
in
role.
the infant school. Yes, Joseph doesn't say much, actually.
Now, did you see YouGov did polling on this yesterday?
Right.
They asked people, who did you play in your Nativity play and who would you vote for?
Right.
And people who played, it's amazing, people who played Joseph are most likely to be Labour voters, funnily enough, so there's a turn up for the books.
Yeah.
But people who played shepherds or Mary, most likely to be Reform voters. So there's an important piece of psephological... no, there aren't many Tory voters left, are there? So no, they were all the way down, all the way down here.
Fascinating.
The three wise kings, presumably, were the Tories.
I can't remember.
Tell us about this.
So being chosen for a leading role makes you a socialist.
What
did you play in the school nativity play?
Do you know? I actually don't remember if I. Yeah, I didn't get. No, I wasn't. Maybe I was probably commentating or something. I don't know, talking nonsense as usual.
Tell us about Gay in a Manger.
I shall. So York St John University has put on an LGBTQ production of the Nativity play, and apparently this has sparked outrage, but so what is my reaction? I mean, seems like quite a fun take on a classic tale. Why not? If you read this and you thought, oh well, no, it's terrible because it's a nativity thing and it's for children. It's not for children. It's for university students.
So
Why not?
It's Mary and Joe, not Joseph, are gay. Apparently, the Heaven is a Gay Disco,
and it's Queen Herod.
Queen Herod.
Yes.
That's excellent.
And The three wise men are drag queens.
Yeah.
Are you offended by this?
No.
No.
I mean, I believe in free speech, and I don't see why there's a big fuss about it. I mean, the point is, everyone gets offended by everything these days. And I would just say to anyone who wants to make a big fuss about this, grow up. Yeah. And if you don't want to watch it, you don't have to go.
As a Roman Catholic boy who's very traditional, and I love them to bet, it doesn't offend me in the slightest.
No, and I just think, you know,
they're students.
Yeah,
I think Heaven is a
gay
disco sounds brilliant, and in fact, one of the best nightclubs in London is called Heaven and is a gay club.
What do you know about
I've frequented on many occasions. Absolutely, it's a great place to go out.
I told your new wife about that.
She knows, absolutely.
The interesting thing, though, is how often the BBC have had stories on drag queens on their main news bulletin last year. 84.
Amazing.
84 drag queen stories on the main BBC news bulletins last year. You just think, why?
No, hang on. But, well, I'll tell you why. Because Drag Race, RuPaul's Drag Race, is one of the most popular shows in Britain. People love it. It's got a massive cult following. So people actually really enjoy this.
But it's not news.
But that memorandum, which exposed the Trump misediting, also revealed how there was a group in the BBC, a small LGBTQ group which vetted stories that can and can't be done. Really sinister, actually.
Well, the BBC has completely blown it. So, you know, I mean, I think when you watch Sarah Smith struggling to comment from Washington, when we have in GB News the brilliant Beverly Turner in Washington, getting interviews with Donald Trump, actually knowing what's going on, and Sarah Smith, the well-known daughter of a Labour Party leader of former days, she is standing out there in the street in Washington with not a clue what's going on.
Well, she is at least holding the president to account, though.
How? She can't even see him. She's not allowed in the White House.
Because he doesn't take interviews with people who he doesn't like, because he doesn't believe in freedom of speech, because he's an authoritarian leader. No. Maybe in the second hour we can talk about these horrific plaques that he's put up in the White House.
Sounds good.
Let's save it for next time.
OK, let's save that. Thank you both. We're going to have a 60-second news update now with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you at 10:31. Teachers will be trained to spot early signs of misogyny under a £20 million government plan aimed at halving violence against women and girls within a decade. The strategy focuses on preventing the radicalisation of young men with lessons on consent, online harms and healthy relationships, plus extra support for high-risk pupils. Australia's Prime Minister says hate speech laws will be toughened after 15 people were killed in a shooting at a Jewish festival in Bondi Beach. Anthony Albanese says new offences, visa powers and sentencing rules will target those spreading hate after what he called an act of terror. Hospitals in England are on high alert this morning after flu cases hit record levels as resident doctors continue their strike action. More than 3,000 patients were in hospital with flu just last week. Health leaders are warning pressure remains intense and say hospitals are nowhere near out of the woods. In Brussels, EU leaders are meeting to decide whether frozen Russian assets should be used to fund Ukraine's war effort. Without new money, Kyiv's finances could run dry within months, but Belgium and others remain wary of the legal risks. And interest rates are expected to be cut before Christmas after inflation fell to an 8-month low. Economists say the Bank of England's likely to lower rates to 3.75% today, offering some relief for borrowers, but no return to ultra-cheap loans. Those are the half-past headlines. A full roundup with the news at 11.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Coming up next, teachers are being tasked to spot the early signs of misogyny in young boys. Here's what the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, had to say.
There has never been a proper focus on prevention. This isn't just about how we make it so that victims have a better service. This is also about how we prevent that violence from being able to happen in the first place.
Well, will these plans make any difference? You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Hello, very good morning to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, things are going to turn pretty wet and pretty windy for many of us as we go through today. It's all because we have some very wet weather across parts of the southwest at the moment, and that's feeding its way northeastwards. The heaviest rain's going to be across southern, southwestern parts, 40, 50, perhaps even up to 60 millimetres in some places. And we have some strong gusts of wind to watch out for, 50 to 60 miles per hour, perhaps 70 miles per hour in some exposed spots towards the southwest. That wet and blustery weather will feed its way further northwards, and whilst temperatures are going to be a little bit above average for the time of year, it's going to feel pretty unpleasant with all that unsettled weather around. Now, as we head into this evening, staying pretty wet across many parts of Scotland. The rain won't have actually reached the far northeast of Scotland and Orkney and Shetland, so drier here. Otherwise, yes, a wet and blustery end to the day, some spray on the roads to watch out for. The rain having cleared mostly away from Northern Ireland, a few outbreaks of rain lingering for a little while yet. Similar down the western side of England and Wales, some hefty showery bursts of rain here, cloudier towards the east with the more persistent rain clearing through. Then as we go overnight, something a little bit clearer, drier developing from the west, so a quieter spell for a time with some clear skies for many places, albeit a fair few showers continuing across parts of the northwest in particular. With some clear skies, especially in the east, it could turn a little chilly, mid-single figures, perhaps even low single figures in some prone rural spots. Then through Friday, well, a drier day for sure for most places, especially across central and eastern England. A good deal of fine sunny weather here. More showers towards the north and west of the UK, but the rain won't be as heavy and the winds won't be as strong as what we're seeing through today. There's more wet weather to come as we go into the weekend, but things are set to turn drier as we go through into Christmas week, and with that, temperatures dropping as well. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Britain, for sharing over 5 million comments on your say. Because when you talk, we listen.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. An accident involving a vehicle that has left the carriageway has led to the closure of all lanes on the M50 eastbound entry slip at Junction 3 in the county of Herefordshire. In West Berkshire, a collision on the A34 northbound between the M4 and the junction with the A4 185 is causing one lane to be closed. On the Britannia Bridge, the speed limit in both directions is currently 30 miles per hour due to ongoing issues. Additionally, on the trains, there is disruption on the Avanti West Coast and cross-country services between Stoke-on-Trent and Cheadle-Hulme. Stay up to date at gbnews.com.
It's 10:36. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom.
So boys as young as 11 are going to be sent on anti-misogyny courses in schools under government plans, they say, to tackle violence against women and girls.
Well, let's get some reaction to that with our GB News national reporter, Charlie Peters. Charlie, the full strategy has not yet been announced, but we have had quite a lot briefed out this morning.
Yeah, and it's 3 times delayed. It was meant to come out in the summer. Jess Phillips said that she was delaying this because she wanted to get it right and to have that full range of measures. Interesting hearing her speak to the political editor, Christopher Hope, earlier this morning, talking about how she wants other departments to be engaged and how previous iterations of a VORG strategy haven't sort of linked up with other secretaries of state. You saw Wes Streeting engaging with some of the briefings that are coming out yesterday. There's going to be Steps to Safety initiative with GPs engaging with victims and survivors to get them the support they need. Announced today, I think, is potentially the most controversial part of these strategies because it's about re-educating boys and girls as well in some cases, but mostly boys, as they said as part of this briefing, if they display or share language which could fall under concerning discussions about misogyny, about violence against women and girls. And Jess Phillips, as part of that re-education strategy, has said that she's going to deploy the full power of the state to achieve that.
What does that mean?
Well, in practice, that means there's going to be £20 million and a helpline and teachers being brought in to deliver education and some outside training teams as well. I think, Miriam, you've actually been looking into what these training courses could be. That's going to be the first question on the mind of a lot of parents. What are you going to be telling my 11-year-old son or my young teenage son when he's engaging with this? And what will he have to say to be picked up by these people, to be sent on essentially a sort of anti-misogynist prevent programme, to be taken out of the classroom and told you need to be re-educated? Because I think perhaps we'll be hearing from education specialists and sort of free speech activists even, who think, hang on, could this risk making young boys feel as though they're being criminalised for thinking and speaking and sharing ideas they've seen, or just raising concerns? It could, you know, and this is the worry that people are expressing, be drilled down so far that a lot of young boys don't really know what to say in case they're taken out for re-education. Now, as part of this drive, the government are pointing to abuse in relationships, in teenage relationships. They've pointed to a very high proportion, they say, where abuse is going on. That's a very wide definition, a very high rate. So, Miriam, I think you've also been looking at what that means. You want to tell us about that?
Well, some of the classifications of abuse are very obviously abusive, but it includes in this list of definitions, have you been pinched? Well, I think a lot of teenage boys and girls go around pinching each other and, you know, engaging in what would have in the past just been called normally flirtatious behaviour. Well, if that counts as an abusive relationship, what exactly are we teaching our children?
Right, and a lot of people will think if perhaps a teacher comes into the classroom, tells an 11-year-old boy, what you're doing there is anti-misogynist, you need to be re-educated, that's very dark and dangerous, you're being radicalised. And then they leave the classroom, go home, open their phone, and then there's a horde of influencers telling them that they're great and men need to be strong and bold. Which voice are you going to choose to hear from? I mean, that's the risk here, I think.
And how much of this strategy is going to involve the parents, who may be where, this could be where some of these young boys are getting these misogynistic views from?
You know, Andrew, on that point...
And the cultural issues too.
Well, on that point, I mean, the National Education Unions, they've welcomed this. They think that teachers have a role to play. But on gbnews.com/your say this morning, when we were talking about this on breakfast, there was a flurry of comments on people saying, what's the role for parents? Yes. Surely it's in your upbringing that you learn against misogyny and radicalisation. It's the role of parents, perhaps, to sit down with their children and say, don't listen to Andrew Tate, who's been singled out by the government today. Almost feels a bit like yesterday's man, actually, in terms of his influence with young people. And they're using a stat to say, from Hope Not Hate, actually, this morning, to say that 40% of young people have a positive view of Andrew Tate. Actually, I think that's possibly overblown and a bit out of date.
I think he's yesterday's man. Yeah. But also, I think there is a real overemphasis on how powerful education or the kind of didactic imparting of knowledge can be. These attitudes are caught, they are not taught. When young boys see a man, their father, let's say, treating their mother well versus abusing her, those are the kind of things that dictate whether or not a man will grow up learning to respect women or to abuse women. And the idea that an hour in a classroom a week telling a boy not to watch Andrew Tate is going to make any difference at all, I just find frankly ridiculous.
And it was on that point that I was so glad that Chris Hope put that question to Jess Phillips this morning, saying to her, you're talking about re-educating boys here, but what education, what prevention will go to men who arrive in Britain from societies and cultures where marital rape is legalised, where women are treated as second-class citizens, where patriarchy, which Jess Phillips talks about rather a lot, where patriarchy is the norm and masculine power is so far beyond what is typically accepted in the United Kingdom. On that point, she said, you know, we expect people to adapt to our culture and we hold them to account when they come here. Of course, there are differing rates in sexual assault according to nationality, which the government has really struggled, I think, to engage with. There was a big release earlier this year on those statistics. We also had a question for her about the grooming gangs inquiry, because in the draft terms of reference released last week, it very explicitly says this inquiry will not attempt to be exhaustive. It will not assess every area. So we asked our political editor, you put this to Jess Phillips, and he absolutely got it spot on. He asked her, what will you say to the victims who've been speaking to GB News who say they feel like they're in a post-code lottery? They want to know where it will be investigated. Here's what Jess Phillips had to say.
Will absolutely be an exhaustive investigation, and not only will the inquiry work around the country to get to the truth of what happened in the past and uncover the issues of why these cases got ignored, looking at issues of both ethnicity but also just real failures within institutions. But alongside that is a policing operation that is operating for the entire country that has already seen a massive increase in arrests for crimes such as rape that is operational entirely across the country.
Well, Jess Phillips there at the end talking about Operation Beacon Port, this National Crime Agency-led police investigation, which is actually the first recommendation that Baroness Casey made when her audit came back in June. The inquiry was actually the second piece. The policing investigation, forgive me, was the top request. But it was interesting to hear her say that, wasn't it? To say, actually, this investigation will be exhaustive. It very explicitly says in the draft terms of reference, the inquiry will not attempt to be exhaustive. So perhaps this chair, Baroness Longfield, she might change his terms of reference. Perhaps we could see a change of language to adopt that. Perhaps the minister wasn't aware that actually the terms of reference that her department put out say that it will not attempt to be exhaustive. For a lot of victims, they could be reassured by what Jess Phillips has just said there, because they are worried. In over 50 different towns and cities, we've discovered this as an issue. We've uncovered those links. They're saying, will the inquiry come to my town? Bradford, they've been waiting for an inquiry there for decades. It's highly likely that it will go there. What about Birmingham, where Jess Phillips is an MP? What about other areas in the West Midlands or the North East or Scotland, which is not going to be part of this inquiry? What about those areas? Will they get the exhaustive investigation that they demand?
Well, what time are we expecting to hear from Jess Phillips?
We're speaking during your programme at some point. You never know these parliamentary speeches, they always delay. Later this morning.
We'll be glued to it.
Thanks, Charlie. Well, we'll be keeping you up to date with that throughout the morning.
Yeah. Now, we've discussed the issue all morning, so we're asking, who should take more responsibility for misogyny in school? Parents or teachers? To have your say, friends of GB News can vote on that very question for free by scanning the QR code. So far, funny that, 95% say parents, 5% say teachers, which is rather what we thought.
Yes, very interesting. Well, get in touch and let us know. And if you want to become a friend of GB News for free, here's how.
Join the community and be part of our shows by becoming a friend of GB News. Get a direct line to join the conversations that you hear us talking about every day in our programmes by commenting on Your Say and voting in You Decide polls. Access opinion, analysis and behind-the-scenes videos as we share more from the stories that you see on TV and radio. Plus, watch our shows live and on catch-up anywhere, anytime. If you love our channel, become a friend of GB News for free by scanning the QR code or going to gbnews.com/friend. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be a part of them.
Well, coming up next, we'll be finding out how our great British pubs are feeling ahead of the interest rate decision at midday.
Yeah, it looks like we could get some good news for the economy as the Bank of England looks set to cut their interest rate. But what does that mean for pubs under pressure? I'm here in East Sussex. Finding out first, though, let's have a look at what the weather's doing in Europe.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're after some winter sun tomorrow, well, Spain's not looking like a great bet. There is a front that's bringing quite a bit of cloud and rain lying across much of Spain into Portugal and stretching as far as Madeira and the Canary Islands, all of that pushing its way east and southeastwards. A drier picture for many around the Mediterranean, but some outbreaks of rain here and there. And worth bearing in mind, there's more unsettled weather to come, particularly towards more southern parts as we go towards the weekend. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get us on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. We're going to do now, they are throwing things up the cars. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News. Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
It's 10:50, Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew and Miriam.
Well, interest rates are expected to be cut at midday before Christmas after UK inflation fell to an 8-month low.
Experts say borrowers may see some relief, but warn ultra-low rates aren't coming back anytime soon.
Well, let's cross to our national reporter, Will Godley, who is at his home, away from home, a pub.
Yes, I am. Very good morning to you, Miriam. Andrew, welcome to the New Inn here in East Sussex. This is a pub today, like many others, of course, in the run-up to Christmas, getting ready for a busy lunchtime rush when doors open at midday, when we're expecting to get some good news from the Bank of England, when we're expecting them to cut interest rates, or their interest rate, from 4% to 3.75%, perhaps some much-needed good news for the economy. But what does all of that mean for pubs under pressure? Well, let's find out now from the co-owner of the New Inn here, Mike Edwards. Mike, thanks for joining us on GB News. Potentially some good news for the economy. What would that mean for you?
I think it's going to mean very little. I believe that interest rates and small reductions will have a marginal effect on mortgages at some time in the future. If you have bank loans, most of them are at fixed rates, so very little in the short term. Maybe, and hopefully, it gives people a better feeling for life in this country.
And that feeling's so important to get people through the door here. You've told me you're fully booked for lunch today, and as you are in the run-up to Christmas as well. But it's come January when the worry sets in. Why are you worried? What's the economic outlook for you?
Pubs, hospitality units have been dangerously hit by the government, particularly in the respect of national insurance, also business rates, all of which come in April next year, and even increases in the minimum wage. And the effect has been that we have cut staff, and particularly young staff. And I note that the numbers of young unemployed have soared in the past few months. And that's got to be down to the fact that employers don't want to pay these exorbitant national insurance charges.
So very quickly, Mike, what's something the government could do to help you out the most?
In the most immediate time, anything to do with a reduction in national insurance would obviously be a great help. Certainty, that's the big thing that business needs generally throughout the country. Certainty and hope that things are just going to get better.
Well, let's hope for that. Mike Edwards, thanks for joining us on GB News. We will find out what exactly is going to happen to interest rates a little bit later on this morning at 12 o'clock when the Bank of England will announce what's going to happen with their interest rate.
Will Godley, thank you very much. Andrew, I'm increasingly think that the Bank of England setting interest rates is not a good thing because they try and put them down to get people to spend more. But actually, that just then encourages people to borrow more, the government to print more money. It just gets us into spirals of debt.
Yeah, and if you rely on your savings, your income,
They're
the
just
interest
eroded.
rates being exactly, and that affects, of course, a lot of pensioners who rely on their savings. Now we have to read out a statement from the Treasury, which will be absolutely thrilling, of course.
I'll try and make it interesting for you, Andrew. We're protecting pubs, restaurants and cafes with the budget's £4.3 billion support package. Without this support, pubs would face a 45% increase in the total bills they pay next year. Because of the support we've put in place, we've got that down to just 4%.
No mention of business rates, of course, which have gone through the roof for pubs.
That is the other side of the coin. We're still ahead.
Yeah, the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, is going to detail in the Commons how she's going to tackle misogyny in Britain's schools. Young boys are going to go to specially tailored courses, apparently. This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Oh, very good morning to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, things are going to turn pretty wet and pretty windy for many of us as we go through today. It's all because we have some very wet weather across parts of the southwest at the moment, and that's feeding its way northeastwards. The heaviest rain's going to be across southern, southwestern parts, 40, 50, perhaps even up to 60 millimetres in some places. And we have some strong gusts of wind to watch out for, 50 to 60 miles per hour, perhaps 70 miles per hour in some exposed spots towards the southwest. That wet and blustery weather will feed its way further northwards, and whilst temperatures are going to be a little bit above average for the time of year, it's going to feel pretty unpleasant with all that unsettled weather around. Now, as we head into this evening, staying pretty wet across many parts of Scotland. The rain won't have actually reached the far northeast of Scotland and Orkney and Shetland, so drier here. Otherwise, yes, a wet and blustery end to the day, some spray on the roads to watch out for. The rain having cleared mostly away from Northern Ireland, a few outbreaks of rain lingering for a little while yet. Similar down the western side of England and Wales, some hefty showery bursts of rain here. Cloudier towards the east with the more persistent rain clearing through. Then as we go overnight, something a little bit clearer, drier developing from the west. So a quieter spell for a time with some clear skies for many places, albeit a fair few showers continuing across parts of the northwest in particular. With some clear skies, especially in the east, it could turn a little chilly, mid-single figures, perhaps even low single figures in some prone rural spots. Then through Friday, well, a drier day for sure for most places, especially across central and eastern England. A good deal of fine sunny weather here. More showers towards the north and west of the UK, but the rain won't be as heavy and the winds won't be as strong as what we're seeing through today. There's more wet weather to come as we go into the weekend, but things are set to turn drier as we go through into Christmas week, and with that, temperatures dropping as well. Bye-bye.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's the big one. Your chance to win a whopping £85,000 in tax-free cash. The largest cash prize we've given away to date. That's like over £7,000 a month extra in your bank account each month for 12 whole months. That's a year of yes. Yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to shopping trips, yes to home improvements. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It is 11 o'clock on Thursday, the 18th of December, live across the UK. Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, any moment now, the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, is going to update MPs on her plans to tackle the early signs of misogyny at school. And the Minister spoke to GB News earlier.
There was never been a proper focus on prevention. This isn't just about how we make it so that victims have a better service. This is also about how we prevent that violence from being able to happen in the first place.
And a major government review has found British farmers are bewildered and scared for the future over concerns over the tractor tax. And of course, we could have told you that.
Well, here in East Sussex, what do farmers think of that review? I'll be finding out later on in the programme, as there are now fresh calls for the government to do more to back British farming.
Well, as part of the government's strategy to get closer to the EU, it turns out that the European Student Exchange programme that we've signed up to will cost £570 million.
Tonight, after 11 months, our border is secure, inflation is stopped, wages are up, prices are down, our nation is strong, America is respected, and our country is back.
That's President Trump delivering his end-of-year address, claiming credit for turning America around, but his critics say he looked wooden. We're asking, does Trump need a bit of time out?
We're going to make more arrests on some of the contentious phrases, and we're going to encourage CPS to look harder at prosecuting those cases.
Well, that's Met Police Commissioner Mark Rowley, who said that 2 people have been arrested at a pro-Palestine rally in London last night for shouting slogans about intifada on the first day of police banning the phrase.
And the Prince and Princess of Wales have released a happy family Christmas card, wishing everyone a very happy Christmas. I think it's interesting what the Met is saying here, because just about a week ago, Mark Rowley gave an interview to Nick Ferrari where he appeared to be saying that it wasn't clear-cut whether these phrases are anti-Semitic and whether they were and that perhaps the law had to change, but he's taken a bold stand here. If you're calling for global intifada, you are encouraging people to violence.
Yeah, absolutely. But it all ties into the free speech row again, doesn't it? Are words violence? Do words incite violence? Should we be cracking down on speech? Or is it the fact that they're allowed on the streets intimidating people? Is that more of an important issue?
I think the casualisation of the word genocide in relation to what's happening in Gaza has been a major factor in the massive increase in Jew hatred in this country and around the world.
And of course, we saw that appalling attack
in
Australia earlier this week. Well, we'd love to hear what you think. Send your views and post your comments to
gbnews.com/you'll-say. But first, here's the news headlines with Sam Francis.
Very good morning to you. Just coming up to 4 minutes past 11. Teachers will be trained to spot early signs of misogyny under a £20 million government plan aimed at halving violence against women and girls within the next 10 years. That strategy, unveiled today after repeated delays, focuses on preventing the radicalisation of young men with lessons on consent, online harms, healthy relationships and positive role models. High-risk pupils will also be referred for extra support, including behavioural courses, while a new helpline will be launched for teenagers experiencing abuse. Well, any moment now we'll be hearing from the Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips in the Commons as she outlines that plan. But earlier, she spoke to us here on GB News.
We need to make sure that the government is providing context for young boys in schools so that when they hear horrible, violent, misogynistic things, that we can make sure that that doesn't lead young men to a life of criminality.
In Australia, the Prime Minister there says new hate speech laws are coming after Sunday's deadly shooting at a Jewish festival in Bondi Beach. 15 people were killed when 2 gunmen opened fire during a Hanukkah event, prompting Anthony Albanese to promise tougher penalties for those spreading hate and radicalisation. The reforms include new visa powers, harsher sentencing for online abuse and a federal offence for aggravated hate speech. Mr Albanese admitted more could have been done to counter anti-Semitism, saying his responsibility now is to unite the nation, not deepen division. Hospitals in England are on high alert today after new figures have shown flu cases hit record levels. That's as resident doctors continue their 5-day strike action. More than 3,000 patients were in hospital last week with flu. That's the highest ever for this time of year. The North West, though, has seen a small fall in admissions, but NHS leaders warn pressure remains intense, with one senior doctor saying hospitals are nowhere near out of the woods. The farming sector is being left bewildered and frightened by government policy, according to a new review commissioned by ministers. That report, led by former NFU President Baroness Minette Batters, calls for a new deal for profitable farming, warning costs are rising while weather conditions become more extreme. Although inheritance tax changes weren't formally within the review's scope, farmers raised them as the single biggest threat to viability. The report also highlights deep concern over changes to post-Brexit farming payments, with some questioning whether their businesses can even survive at all. In Scotland, the parents of a teenager who took his own life after being blackmailed on Instagram are suing Meta in what's thought to be the UK's first case of its kind. 16-year-old Murray Dowie was targeted by sextortion scammers posing as a girl and threatened with exposure unless he paid. His family claims Meta knew of safety measures that could have prevented the abuse, but instead prioritised profit. Meta, though, says it is fighting sextortion on multiple fronts, as lawyers warn the crime has become a global digital epidemic. In Brussels, EU leaders are meeting today to decide whether to loan Ukraine tens of billions of euros using frozen Russian assets. Without fresh funding, Kyiv says finances could run dry within months. But Belgium and other nations remain unconvinced, warning of legal and financial risks. The European Commission wants to release around 90 billion euros, but Russia has threatened legal action and condemned the plan. As peace talks continue behind the scenes, officials say this is now a crunch moment that could shape the next phase of the war. Here, meanwhile, interest rates are expected to be cut before Christmas after UK inflation fell to an 8-month low. Economists say the Bank of England is likely to reduce rates to 3.75% today. That's the lowest since early 2023. Inflation dropped to 3.2% in November, driven by easing food, drink and tobacco prices. Those are the headlines. I'll hand you straight back to Andrew and Miriam.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hello, welcome back. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Kate.
So, 2 people have been detained at a pro-Palestine protest in Westminster after police warned that chants such as globalise the Intifada would not be tolerated because they are inciting violence.
Well, the move comes after heightened sensitivity following the Bondi Beach attack over the weekend.
In Australia, the daughter of one of the victims, Victoria Toplitsky, has criticised the broadcaster ABC in a live interview, accusing it of bias in its coverage of Israel.
Well, in a British exclusive, Victoria Toplitsky joins us now. Victoria, good morning, and can we just express our sympathies for you and your family and indeed all of Australia's Jewish community at this horrific attack. How is your father doing now?
Second operation, and it went well. The doctors are very happy. Most importantly, my dad is happy. He's very positive, very optimistic, and looking forward as we do. That's what we do. We keep going.
Anti-Semitism, Victoria, it's the oldest hatred of them all. And I know that the Australian government has had a major report sitting on its desk since July on how to deal with anti-Semitism in Australia. How bad has it got in Australia, and why are you singling out ABC broadcaster for criticism?
We don't get a voice. I mean, the reality is, I don't know what the world thinks. I think the impression is that, Jews control the media, Jews control everything, and they must think there's a lot of us. We are a tiny minority. Jews throughout the world, I think it's around the 16 million mark. That's around the whole world. The way it works these days, it's, with TikTok and social media, we're a minority. And from what I understand, with algorithms, et cetera, we can't get heard really on social media. So we look to mainstream media to do what they are supposed to do with integrity and tell the truth, both sides of the truth without bias. And the ABC has definitely not done that. The only reason I agreed to do that interview with the ABC is because I knew it was live. Because the reality is, if it wasn't live, what I said would have never been heard. We get shut down. So, yeah.
So,
and sorry, Miriam.
No, apologies, do keep going.
I know, I mean, we all know about the Holocaust, although there are many Holocaust deniers, and I don't know, perhaps the youth are not taught about it at school, or it's an option, but it's not compulsory. The Holocaust didn't happen overnight. The Holocaust started by propaganda and lies about the Jews, as if we're something other. We, like I said before, we rule the world, we have all the money in the world, et cetera, et cetera. And it started with the Hitler Youth, with education, with educating, or should I say brainwashing the youth to hate Jews. I mean, that was one of the things, and we know that's happened. We know that's happened in the schools in the UK, throughout America, in Australia. You can see that the youth have been brainwashed. If you ask them anything in detail, they can't give you an answer. So it's not free speech. I mean, I don't know. Growing up, I was taught that if you don't know what you're talking about, stay quiet, listen and learn. And when you do go to these encampments and you ask, oh, can you explain what your sign means? They don't know. Or you ask them about the history, they don't know. So it's clear brainwashing. It's become popular culture as well. And I don't know whether it's... Sorry, Andrew. Sorry.
I was going to say, Victoria, one of the shocking things for us here was seeing not just a 10-year-old girl... Oh, we've lost her. Oh, how sad. I was going to say that a Holocaust survivor
absolutely
was one of the ones. Was one of the people who died. We're going to try and get Victoria Toplitsky back.
I do think she's right about what children are taught about history and the Holocaust in particular, because an understanding of how Israel came into existence, why it was so necessary for Jews to have a homeland, is so critical to understanding what's going on today, and yet so many young people really have no clue about that.
And it's why I was talking earlier about, we've got Victoria back, I think, Victoria,
Hi.
we lost you briefly. I was saying one of the things which was shocking for us here in Britain was that you lost a 10-year-old girl in that massacre on Bondi Beach, but also
funeral was today.
Yeah, and a Holocaust survivor too. How terrible that he survived the Holocaust, but this terrible hatred caught him out in the end.
Absolutely, absolutely. And little Matilda, my dad's girlfriend, who I believe saved his life by using her belt as a tourniquet. One of the things that she can't get out of her mind, and even on that very first day when we ended up going to hospital with my father, was this little girl that was dancing. And she just kept saying there was a little girl and she was dancing and she was dancing and she was so joyful. And then I saw her and she had blood and she was lying down. And, you know, and even then she said, I don't think they're going to talk about the little girl. She was so used to not having a voice that even she at that stage said, oh, they'll make that story about who we now know as little Matilda go away. So yes, tragic.
And it was her funeral today, Victoria?
It was her funeral today. And it's a Ukrainian family, just like myself, you know, Ukrainian born, ex-Soviet Union. And they came here for a better life, to get away from the problems, to get away from and they named her Matilda, and you can't get any more Aussie than that. So they really wanted to come to this country and embrace Australia and integrate and celebrate all that Australia has to offer. And instead, their daughter was gunned down with bullets for animals.
Victoria, you don't just believe it's the media that's responsible for allowing anti-Semitism to fester. You believe the government has a role in this as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, like the government, many governments around the world. I mean, the reality is United Nations. People think, oh, it's got a name, United Nations. There is one Jewish nation, Israel. And I could be wrong, but I believe there's about, for example, 57 Muslim nations and others. Some understand and are supportive of Israel, but generally speaking, we are a tiny minority. We are a single voice. So the UN is heavily biased against us. And then it's obviously a pyramid effect. The governments, yes, the UK government as well. I'm sorry. But I've heard you do have a lot of problems also in the UK. And I, you know, I pray this doesn't get repeated, but we are assuming that it will. It could be here, it could be in the United Kingdom, anyway, it could be anywhere. But yes, we do. We blame the government. We blame. You do not reward a terrorist or a massacre. I'm sorry, you do not reward the massacre, the slaughter, the rape, the gang rape, the sadistic mutilation of parents in front of their children, or torture of children in front of their parents, the massacre of over 1,200 people, and the kidnapping of 251 people. You do not reward that by awarding the people who did that a state, a country of their own.
Yeah,
I mean,
our own government
if
followed your government.
If your neighbour, I'm sorry, if your neighbour rapes your daughter and the government says, oh yeah, that was, you know, that was bad, but you know what, we'll gift you the house next door. How would you feel?
Yeah, Victoria,
we feel too.
Victoria,
We feel like.
we hope everything's going to be okay with your dad. What's his first name, your dad?
Senyon.
Okay, well, look, send him our love, and we hope he's on the road to recovery. And thank you so much for joining us, Victoria, and putting your case so powerfully.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Miriam. Thank you very much for giving us the voice.
Well, in a response during the interview with Mr. Plitsky, the ABC reporter Rebelato did not respond to the accusation, instead expressing her sympathies before bringing the interview to a close. She said, "Victoria, we are so sorry for what you've been through and for what you're going through. We really hope your father recovers. I know all of us here, we're horrified by what's going on, so thank you for joining us and sharing your story."
GB News have asked ABC for a right of reply. Now, up next, the safeguarding minister, Jess Phillips, is going to speak in the Commons very shortly about her plans to tackle misogyny with young boys at school.
And we'll be going through that with our very own two wise-ish men, Piers Pottinger, Andy Williams. This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
11:21, Britain's Newsroom, live across the UK. Andrew and Miriam.
Well, let's cross to our national reporter, Will Godley, who is on a farm.
Where are we going? Well, good morning to you. Yeah, we've moved from the pub to the farm here, and take a look. There's lots of beautiful pigs here, and they are all milling around, little piglets as well. But this all comes as this new review from the former National Farmers Union president, Baroness Minette Batters, has highlighted really the challenges that farmers are facing at the moment in creating a profit after all of the costs of growing pigs like this, growing food for British consumers. consumers and the challenges that farmers are facing, and it's calling for a new deal for profitable farming. It's also highlighting this review the inheritance tax changes, of course, announced in the budget last year and coming into force in April, which this review has said is leaving farmers bewildered and frightened. Well, let's now speak to Lloyd Baker, the livestock farmer here. Beautiful pigs you've got on the farm, Lloyd. What do you make of this review, saying that farmers are bewildered and frightened? Is that how you're feeling?
Oh yes, it's how all farmers across the board are feeling, 100%. We're devastated and we really don't want to be put under this amount of pressure. We're only trying to feed the nation at the end of the day and carry on what our families have always done.
And just how hard is it to make a profit as a farmer?
Oh, it's diabolical. It's so hard that the price of our fuels have gone up, the price of our fertilisers, the feed, the transport issues we've now got with abattoirs closing. Across the board, everything is now harder to produce food in every single aspect.
And all of those challenges come on top of the inheritance tax changes due to come into place in April, of course. How are you feeling about that?
It's gutting. It just knocks all the motivation out of the farming. It knocks all the drive, especially the younger farmers. We don't know where we're going with it. We're already nine times out of 10 are young farmers working for the family farmer. Not a lot of profit, not a lot of wage, just basically off the backbone, but hopefully we can carry on the family tradition and keep farming. It's bad enough as it is, let alone not knowing where we can be in a generation's time.
And you've been down in Westminster at these farming protests in your tractor, calling for a reversal of this tractor tax, as it's being called. If that doesn't happen, what's likely to happen to British farming?
Well, British farming will slowly come to an end. The price of everyone's food's going to go up and the quality of everyone's food's going to drop.
So your message to the government watching today, what would that be?
Have a good think about what you're doing. Have a think about how you can get over this tax issue. I mean, we understand that there are millionaires in London buying up agricultural ground and using that to get out of inheritance tax, but there's ways around controlling that. Maybe do like a decade deal, like after 40 years in a family, there's no tax, 30 years, it's 10%, 20 years, 20%, and there's ways which you can be thought about to help everyone across the board.
OK, Lloyd Baker, thank you very much for joining us on GB News, reacting, of course, to that review, saying that farmers are bewildered and frightened across the UK.
All right, thanks, Will. That's Will Godley down on the farm. Now we've got our political commentators back, Andy Williams and Piers Pottinger. Take us to the White House, because there is a presidential walk of fame, which has been there with portraits of the Prime Minister. What's happening, Piers?
Well, he's put these plaques under... I mean, this is... You sometimes wonder with Trump whether he's actually really the President of the United States, or we're watching some ridiculous television series, because it's all so bizarre. This time he's put these plaques under various former presidents' portraits, or in one case with Biden, he's actually taken the picture away and put a picture of an auto pen and said, Joe Biden, the worst president of the United States. And it goes on and on. There's obviously not one of Kamala Harris, because she was of no consequence whatsoever. Yeah. But, I mean, in some ways you might think this is funny, but it does, to me, it's very, very childish. And it's also incredibly undignified for the White House. It's a little bit like Starmer taking down all the serious pictures of Margaret Thatcher or the Queen or whatever, and replacing them with some abstract junk. Yeah. You know, this is it's the very worst aspect of Trump. It's childish, it's vindictive, it's unpleasant, it's actually deeply unseemly for a president.
Exactly, it's not befitting of the role of the President of the United States of America.
It's absolutely appalling, but nothing he's ever done has been befitting of the role of the President of the United States. You know, he's literally demolishing part of the White House to suit his own ends. He's put this terribly tacky Oval Office sign outside the door of the Oval Office, as if anyone in the White House needs to know where the Oval Office is. I mean, I'll add to Piers's words, mean-spirited, embarrassing. I mean, it's just such a bad look, not just for him, because we know what he's like, but he is, I think, a dreadful representative of the United States of America. And he really has made the United States on the world stage smaller, not bigger.
And I'm told the new ballroom in the White House is going to have a McDonald's drive-through at the side of it.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised, but, you know, and it's corruption as well.
I'm not joking.
He's taking... People don't need to... hire lobbying firms or smart communications people to get messages through to the US government anymore. They just buy him off. They just give $1 million to the ballroom and everything's fine.
And in this Walk of Fame, so all visitors get taken there. That's the extraordinary thing. So they will now see that Trump has put on the plaque, Sleepy Joe Biden was by far the worst president in American history. Well, that is debatable anyway, but that is not appropriate, is it?
No.
And I speak as one. I want to stick up for Trump. I think he's done some good things as president, but I think this is risible.
But what he's doing is demeaning his own office.
Absolutely.
It is.
And it's absurd. And really, it is the very worst aspect of Donald Trump in full light. And I mean, occasionally he does one or two things, or says he's going to do one or two things that sound pretty plausible and good. But more and more with him now, I'm afraid. I mean, last night when he addressed the nation in America, there was a lot of rumours flying around he was going to declare war on Venezuela. And markets were flying all over the place as a result of this. And the question now is, of course, what actually is he going to do with what he's doing in Venezuela? Because he's boxed himself into a terrible position. And you know, he's also got Ukraine to deal with.
Well, he was going to end the war on day one.
He was, yes. Yeah.
Andy, when he was up for election, a lot of people on the left were saying he's too authoritarianism, he's a threat to democracy, and I think some of us dismissed that as just kind of fear-mongering. But one of the principles of democracy is that you credit your opponents with political legitimacy. You're allowed to disagree with them, but you have to give them that legitimacy, that respect, because they were once elected too.
Yes.
He's undermining that.
100%. That, you know, the Republican Party back in the day was effectively a conservative party. It was a traditional conservative party of the right. It's not my cup of tea, but that's what it was. And Donald Trump is far from a conservative. He has no respect for institutions. He never has. He only has respect for himself and money. Those are the things he values, literally.
Well, no,
money and Donald Trump.
Come on,
he doesn't know. I'm sorry. I mean this. I've said it before. I really genuinely don't believe he actually cares even about America.
I think he does.
I believe he cares about
America
Donald Trump.
Great again. That's his.
Make Donald Trump great again. That's what he really
means. Great again. He only cares about America, in my view. It's America first, always. It doesn't care about Europe, Britain.
Donald Trump.
If you saw his speech last night, he came across as very frustrated, very tense. He was very unusually. He read the whole thing. He didn't go off-piste at all. It was very. What he's trying to do. The midterm elections are coming up, where I think he's going to get wiped out. And the Republicans are very nervous about this, quite rightly so. He's trying to tell people that the economy is going to get better. They are all going to benefit. It's all jam tomorrow. Again, he's dreaming the impossible dream.
Because that was his pitch, wasn't it? Under Biden, America was worse off. If you vote for me, I'll make you better off. But the economy is not delivering just yet.
Right, and what's going to be really fascinating is after those midterms, when I think, as Piers says, he will be, it'll be a very, very bad result for the Republicans. His authority will very quickly disappear.
And then how silly are the European leaders going to look, having kowtowed to him all the way through this Ukraine business? I mean, if you think Trump's bad, look at the European leaders who are playing to his tune. None of them have stood up to him, and it's shocking.
Of Trump, the one thing that I suppose he has given Europeans hope about is the possibility of tackling mass illegal migration that has been very detrimental to our continent and to theirs, and he has made some inroads on that. If he falls, if his legitimacy goes, then perhaps actually some of our hope in Europe that we can also tackle it will be diminished.
Well, I think it's a balance, and in my view, the way that he has tackled, there's no doubt it's been effective, but you have to balance an effective approach to, in my view, to illegal migration with actually some level of morality and empathy, of which he has none. And I think his policy has been, it's been disgusting to watch, and I think it's really been awful for America's reputation on the world stage. One thing I'd just say is, compare and contrast with previous presidents. No other previous president of the United States would ever do this. There's a famous letter that George H.W. Bush left Bill Clinton when he entered the White House. And I pulled it up, and at the end he said, "You will be our president when you read this note. I wish you well. I wish your family well. Your success is our country's success. I'm rooting hard for you. Good luck."
which is very nice.
That's the dignified way to do it.
It is.
But remember, Trump is not only bad for America, he's bad for the world. And that's what my point about the European leaders. Look at the chaos he's brought about with his tariffs coming on, coming off, not doing this, not doing that, not backing Ukraine in the way he should be, and indeed all of Europe should be. It's a disaster for the world.
Talking of tariffs, Andy, we've had this... The government, as you know, has imposed for the first time inheritance tax on what I would call small family farms. The report has come out today by Minette Batters, a former president of the National Farmers Union, commissioned by this government, where she says farmers are bewildered and scared. They've really made a mess of this, haven't they, the Labour government?
They have.
For £500 million, which is small beer in terms of government spending. By the way, that's paying for this ridiculous Erasmus student scheme, £570 million, which the Minister tells us we should be grateful for because you've got a 30% discount.
Well, Erasmus is $8 billion, and it's going to be...
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think Erasmus is ridiculous. I think it's really important. I think it's...
You've never accepted Brexit.
Well, I absolutely think it was the wrong thing to do. I've accepted it. I've not tried. Well, I have. I have accepted it. I have. No, Trust me, I've been through the 5 stages of grief on that one. You know, we are where we are, which is worse off, which is you know, more politically divided, etc., etc. But aside from that, I think the agricultural property relief policy is a classic example of a sledgehammer to crack a nut. They could have designed it in a way that actually targeted people who were smartly trying to avoid tax and who, you know, aren't hard-up farmers.
Wealthy landowners.
Wealthy landowners, yeah, the Jeremy Clarksons of this world. And instead of actually what they've done, which is broad brushstroke, and as a result, yes, lots of farmers have been really badly affected.
It's because they haven't thought it through again.
It's poorly designed policy.
Yeah, absolutely. They haven't thought it through properly, but also the Labour Party traditionally has been anti-countryside. It doesn't understand the farming community. It doesn't understand the countryside. It's always been negative towards the countryside because they're very urban mindset. They're a bunch of metropolitan lefty socialists of the worst kind. They have no understanding about the real backbone of this country, which is the countryside.
But they need to, because 80 Labour MPs represent rural constituencies.
Not for much
it's like
longer,
it's a fifth. Well,
not for much
at least until 2029. But that's a fifth of the parliamentary party, so it should be a really important issue for them.
I think. I mean, it does seem an exorbitant amount of money, especially when this country is very, very short of cash. But I think it is a mistake to just dismiss it as, you know, a middle-class holiday for middle-class students, the Erasmus scheme. Because surely we want to be building links, we want to be training young people up.
For 600 million?
Well, yes, I do think the cost is ridiculous, but I think sometimes there's a tendency to say, well, we shouldn't spend any money at all unless we can see the immediate economic gain.
But the big problem is that the last time we were in part of this, the majority of people using this scheme were French people coming here. And in fact, there were very few Britons who took it up. And so it's not in the British psyche in the same way as it is. So again, what we're going to do, and this is basically Starmer simply trying through stealth, getting closer and closer to the EU again. And you know, yes, you could say we haven't taken advantage of Brexit in the way we should have done, but we still have our freedom. We still have the ability to run our own affairs, and we should stick to that, not keep letting Europe take more money off us and giving us very little in return.
I mean, we had our ability to run our own affairs anyway, and we did, and we had the best. Yes, we did, and we had the perfect sweet spot position in the European Union, where we didn't have a single currency, where we had a huge amount of power and sway and influence. We had opt-outs left, right, and centre, and we sacrificed all of that. And all the Erasmus scheme is, in terms of going back into it, is Keir Starmer looking at what were the good things about being in the European Union, and yes, there were bad things, but none of this is as black and white as we were told.
Ask a fisherman. A British fisherman, how he's feeling these days, now that Starmer's given our fishing rights away.
Do you know what? Fishing is important, okay, but it contributes less to the UK economy than Abba Voyage. It is a really, it's true. That's a fact. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny sliver of our economy. But we cannot build an entire political consensus on the backs of a handful of people in Grimsby.
It is symbolic and it's an important part of our culture, our fishing industry.
Andy, that is the same argument as you're using to defend the Erasmus scheme, that It's not many people who benefit. You can't point to the economic gain, but it's nevertheless a good thing to do.
I agree with that, but I'm saying that my point is that if you look at the overall scope of European Union membership, or as we're talking about, closer integration with the European Union, we're not going back into the single market. We're not going back into the EU.
But actually, Andy's just demonstrated my earlier point. He's talking about ABBA voyage instead of fishermen.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, come on.
Looking at it purely in economic terms, it's more valuable.
Right, so you just get rid of the fish?
No, I'm just making a counterpoint that if you're looking at it purely in terms of GDP.
This is my point. You're looking at it through a purely utilitarian.
And I'm not saying we should. I'm just making the point that if you were looking at it through that lens.
So we'll give up on the farmers and just have Coldplay concerts everywhere.
Or solar farms. Or yeah.
Let's talk about a Christmas card. Sainsbury's. They've upset the trans community.
Oh, yes. It's a sort of, again, this... we now talk about the Grinch the whole time.
Yeah.
Very American. So there's a Christmas card of a Grinch saying, "I now identify as a Grinch." So what? It's not that funny. It's not that well done. But of course, the trans community have taken offence and are threatening to do all kinds of things to Sainsbury's because of it. I mean, for goodness sake. I mean, if we go back to ABBA Voyage, then how many of these trans people do we have to bother listening with, and all the time it takes and everything? For goodness sake, grow up, or everyone, and let's just get on with it.
Why have they pulled the card, Andy, Sainsbury's? This is a tiny, noisy minority of our community who just punch above their weight.
Right.
This is just an enormous shrug of the shoulders, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How French. Well, Andy Piers, thank you so much. We are going to go for a brief break, but stay with us because we're hoping to go to Jess Phillips in the House of Commons for that very important statement on violence against women and girls. This is GB News.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're after some winter sun tomorrow, well, Spain's not looking like a great bet. There is a front that's bringing quite a bit of cloud and rain lying across much of Spain into Portugal and stretching as far as Madeira and the Canary Islands, all of that pushing its way east and southeastwards. A drier picture for many around the Mediterranean, but some outbreaks of rain here and there. And worth bearing in mind, there's more unsettled weather to come, particularly towards more southern parts as we go towards the weekend. Bye-bye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co. with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. It's nearly 11:45. You're watching and listening to Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
It's now time for the Great British Giveaway.
It's not.
It's not time for the giveaway, actually. Forgive me. So you can't win it just yet.
We're going to stick with our panel
panel
because we are anticipating the statement from Jess Phillips in the House of Commons in the next hour or so to talk about the government strategy to halve violence against women and girls. And we're also joined now by Charlie Peters, our national reporter, who's been following this closely. Charlie, what are we expecting Jess to say?
Well, she'll be outlining further the details from this strategy. We wonder if there'll be further announcements involved. We know there's more to come on this. They've been sort of launching a week of announcements so far, and today is really about prevention being at the centre. There had been some criticism earlier this week that much of what they were putting out was reactive, about engaging with people after the event. A lot of charities, a lot of campaigners asking for more work to be done in the prevention. But having said that, there are also concerns being expressed that with a lot of work put in that direction, it could lead to the resources being struggling in the sectors that have to engage with those spaces. So we did speak to the Safeguarding Minister, Jess Phillips, this morning in a wide-ranging conversation with our political editor, Christopher Hope. He did ask some key questions on the grooming gangs inquiry, specifically asking her about whether or not this investigation would cover every area. And here's what she had to say.
Will absolutely be an exhaustive investigation, and not only will the inquiry work around the country to get to the truth of what happened in the past and uncover the issues of why these cases got ignored, looking at issues of both ethnicity but also just real failures within institutions. But alongside that is a policing operation that is operating for the entire country that has already seen a massive increase in arrests for crimes such as rape. That is operational entirely across the country.
Speaking there about the inquiry and the investigation being absolutely exhaustive, doesn't match the language in the draft terms of reference the government released last week. Point 5.6 says the inquiry will not attempt to be exhaustive. So it's possible the Minister is speaking about the police investigation being led by the National Crime Agency, the overarching combination of the two, but that wording specifically says the inquiry won't be exhaustive. It won't look at every area, which has, of course, raised some concerns from victims that we've been working with and speaking to for years, worrying, will my area be included? Will my town in South Wales be investigated? Will my part of the West Midlands get this review? Those reassurances are going to be absolutely vital if this inquiry is going to have the support of the victims. But of course, that's not what they're focusing on today. They're not really talking about the grooming gangs inquiry. Of course, they're talking about this broader re-education for boys, mostly boys, but children in general, at school if they express misogynistic views, to help shift their minds away from the toxic masculinity influences of the online world. That's the language the government is using. And they're saying that re-education programmes could be sort of forced on children who don't sort of engage properly at the start of this process. So training will go to teachers who will be invited and expected really to lead that intervention. Another question we had for Jess Phillips this morning is, a lot of this is about educating boys in Britain brought up here. But what about the many hundreds of thousands in the last few years who've arrived in Britain on work visas, on travel visas, on study visas, who come from countries and cultures that do not treat women with respect, which is broadly the position in the United Kingdom, that there is we don't have an overarching patriarchal legal structure where women are treated as second-class citizens. Many of the countries where people are coming to Britain, people are coming from, they very much do. On that point, she said, when people come here, we expect them to abide by our culture and our law. Chris Hope pushing, should they be deported if they fail on those standards? The minister, backing up that line, standing up that they would. That's a problem for the government, though, isn't it? Because that isn't happening. No. Foreign sex offenders aren't being deported due to their ability to rely on those human rights legislation. So we are expecting Jess Phillips, Safeguarding Minister, to speak soon on this. We'll get I expect a broader understanding, and it'll be interesting also to hear the political reaction to that. What do the Conservatives make of teachers essentially taking on the role of parents, Miriam, which I know is an area you've been speaking about this morning as well. And our viewers, a lot of them voting on our polls saying that they think that this is the role for parents, not for teachers. What will the Conservatives say to that point in particular?
Well, I do wonder if they're going to start more seriously looking at the Australian route of banning social media for under-16s, because I think it's becoming increasingly clear that actually neither education nor parental influence can compete with 8 or 9 hours a day on social media, seeing graphic images, being drawn by algorithms into content that's more and more extreme. Even parents can't compete with that kind of influence. So it'll be interesting to see if Labour do actually eventually go down that route.
She hinted it, didn't she, Jess Phillips?
In an interview with Sky, she said that they would be looking at the evidence of the Australian ban, but that will be years before we see any reportable evidence. But, Charlie, you've linked the grooming gangs with the violence against women and girls strategy and the cultural impacts of different countries where they don't believe women are equal, where they don't have a concept of consent, let's say. But the government doesn't seem to have linked those two things yet.
It was really important that Chris Hope put that question to her earlier, because you'll remember early this year we had reporting about the different rates of sexual offences according to nationality of origin of perpetrators in Britain, which found that some countries, such as Afghanistan and Eritrea, had rates of up to 20 times higher than Britain's for sexual offences. When that was put to Jess Phillips at the time, she said, but patriarchy is everywhere, and the main consistent trend in offending is men, not nationality. So that did point to what I thought and what lots of commentators and indeed campaigners thought was a potentially a bit of a blind spot there into the drivers behind offending. Now, that's not to say that nationality and culture is everything in this space. These are overrepresentations, there are trends, and there are different impacts and age ranges that impact this when people come to Britain, of course, as well. But it's something they'll have to grapple with, for sure. And I think a lot of people engaging with this strategy about re-educating boys, taking them out of school to, get further advice on what is and isn't toxic masculinity from these charities and campaign groups, they might be thinking, well, what are you going to do about the men who are coming here who don't necessarily share our values as well? Will there be re-education programmes put on for small boat migrants arriving with these views to make sure they're ready to adapt into broader society?
Maybe they'll take some of these education programs to mosques.
Well,
that would be controversial.
I think highly unlikely.
Controversial.
Well, I don't know if the panel saw, we did interview a formerly Muslim lady early on, 9:30, Khadija Khan, who was talking about what it was like growing up as a woman in a Muslim community and the impact of being forced to wear a burqa and things like that. And do you think this is a blind spot, Piers, that the government's just too frightened to address?
Yes, I do. And I also think that this whole inquiry has been a shambles. And Jess Phillips, the two adjectives you wouldn't use for Jess Phillips are calm and measured. She flies off the handle so easily. She looks to me stressed out the whole time. And they've got this, what they keep calling an independent inquiry, yet it's now chaired by a senior Labour figure. So what is the inquiry independent of? The victims, some of the senior victims are very unhappy with this. But, I mean, it's also nonsensical that there isn't a proper national inquiry set up and properly headed probably by a judge or someone who is unimpeachable rather than a Labour Party figure. And also, the stuff that Jess Phillips is talking about in schools, I mean, it sounds, re-educating children on misogyny. Doesn't that sound like something the communists would do? I find it very chilling that they're thinking of doing this. It's also going to take a lot of time because they've got to train teachers and they've got to then teach the children. So we're not looking at this happening anytime soon.
On that point, gentlemen, thank you very much. That's it from us. That's it from Britain's Newsroom. Up next, it's Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Dawn. Goodbye for now.
Hello, we are back in the room together, and we've got a cracking show for you. We're starting off with Jess Phillips and misogyny and how important that young boys are told to respect girls.
Well, also on the show, have you heard that the Labour government has cancelled the tram they promised for Leeds? They say it will cost too much money. Meanwhile, billions will be spent on foreign student exchanges. You couldn't make it up.
Also, some very interesting interest rate facts for you and, of course, Christmas, because it's nearly here.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, very good morning to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, things are going to turn pretty wet and pretty windy for many of us as we go through today. It's all because we have some very wet weather across parts of the southwest at the moment, and that's feeding its way northeastwards. The heaviest rain's going to be across southern, southwestern parts, 40, 50, perhaps even up to 60 millimetres in some places. And we have some strong gusts of wind to watch out for, 50 to 60 miles per hour, perhaps 70 miles per hour in some exposed spots towards the southwest. That wet and blustery weather will feed its way further northwards, and whilst temperatures are going to be a little bit above average for the time of year, it's going to feel pretty unpleasant with all that unsettled weather around. Now, as we head into this evening, staying pretty wet across many parts of Scotland. The rain won't have actually reached the far northeast of Scotland and Orkney and Shetland, so drier here. Otherwise, yes, a wet and blustery end to the day, some spray on the roads to watch out for. The rain having cleared mostly away from Northern Ireland, a few outbreaks of rain lingering for a little while yet. Similar down the western side of England and Wales, some hefty showery bursts of rain here. Cloudier towards the east with the more persistent rain clearing through. Then as we go overnight,